Back in 2014, I was on a missions trip, and I remember having an honest conversation with the Lord, and it was in regards to whether or not I was going to be single or married or whatever. And I just remember being open with the Lord, and we were talking about it, and just sensing that He impressed it on my heart that He wanted me to have a family. So I thought it was going to be something that was going to happen like right away, but just having that assurance from Him and saying, well, Lord, okay, I'm trusting You to guide in this area of my life.
Well, I first heard about Tim back in 2013. My younger brother had gone to Bible school with him and had interacted and had really high respect for him. And he's like, you should pray about a guy I know. His name is Tim Forman. And so Tim came on my radar, and but after that, hearing different ones speak of Tim, and it was always, they spoke of him with just so much respect, and I knew this man had a sincere walk with the Lord, and I just remember feeling really encouraged by that.
Well, years went by, and I remember getting invited to go do some prison ministry up in North Florida. That was the first time that I met Becky, but I was not interested in her. I thought that maybe she kind of liked me a little bit, but I wasn't going to encourage any of that. And obviously, for me, I had messed up in that area of my life many years ago. And between me and the Lord, I said, Lord, I need Your leadership in regards to choosing a life partner, because I want to honor You in this.
It was May of 2016. I was just going about my day. I was folding laundry in the middle of the day, and the Lord knows how to get our attention. I just remember Him stopping me in my tracks and just communicating something to my heart so specific about Tim. He just communicated to me that He loved Tim. Like He wanted me to see it. Like, Becky, I loved him. And I remember being like, Lord, You love everybody. Like, kind of like, am I hearing, what is this? And He spoke to my heart, will You let me love him through you? And I remember so much in my mind shifted. This isn't about me finding someone that I like or someone to make me feel good, or this is about the fact that the Lord loves this person. He loves them eternally. And would I surrender myself so He could put His love for this person inside of me? And the Lord began to begin to pray for Tim. Like, I want to teach you how to pray for Tim.
It was in November of 2017, and I was at an art competition. That evening, I hadn't set my alarm because I needed to get some rest. I was going to drive about 6 hours back home. Well, it was about 5 o'clock in the morning. I'm wide awake with the thought of, you need to pray about Becky Keilen. And I'm like, Lord, You brought to name Becky Keilen. And if this is You, I'm asking that You would just confirm it, and that You would lead and order things from Your throne. About 3 months later, I was interacting with Becky and some friends doing a film project. Anyway, while I was there, Becky's brother and I were friends. We ended up going on a walk together, and we're talking about the project and interacting. And he says to me, Tim, this is kind of random, but have you ever thought about being married? And I'm like, why is he asking me this? And then he proceeds to bring up this conversation that he had had with a friend of mine in regards to Becky and I. And I'm like, oh, wow. So I felt like the Lord was like, but I said, I'm just watching to see what the Lord does, and that's where I'm at.
2018 came, and we had that filming project in February, and again, just seeing nothing in Tim. And he goes on this walk with my brother, and I had no idea about, and I didn't hear about it till later. And I actually didn't hear about it from my brother. I heard about it from my dad, and we were on a phone call, and I was just sharing with him, and he told me, he's like, well, Becky, you need to know that Tim isn't an option. And it's like, that's so weird. He doesn't even know Tim. It's like, Dad, what do you mean? you know how things get lost in telephone tag? Things Tim had said got shifted a little bit because Tim hadn't, up to that point, ever been interested in me. And he didn't have any intentions of pursuing me right away, but things got twisted. Just still feeling emotionally confused about that, and like it hadn't been settled in my own heart. And so just taking time to pray.
I had the idea I'm gonna write a letter to her parents. And so I drafted this letter basically sharing what the Lord had been putting on my heart. And I said at the end, Mr. and Mrs. Keilen, would you please give me permission to get to know your daughter more? And would you watch and pray to see if God confirms towards marriage or not?
On May 1st, when I got a call from my dad, and I couldn't have been any more shocked when he told me that he had received a letter from Tim Forman asking to pursue a relationship with me. I remember getting off the phone with my dad and just pacing outside for probably over an hour, and the Lord speaking to my heart like, Becky, this isn't happening because you want it. It's happening because I want it. And just then being in a position of surrender.
So we set up a call for the next day. I was super nervous about it because I didn't know what she thought. I mean, I just knew what the Lord had shown me.
The first phone call was just wonderful. Just realizing the Lord had put us on the same page. When he told me, just like, you don't have to be anything different for me. Just that freeing me up to just, then we can just look to the Lord together and watch what he works between us.
I looked over at her and kind of giggled a little bit, and there was something deep inside of me, and I felt really embarrassed to say it. And I was like, Becky, I'm having all these romantic feelings towards you right now. Oh my, and you know, we sat there, we were sitting there on the swinging chair, and I just started crying. Like, it was like tears were rolling down my eyes for like 30 minutes. I'm just sitting there like, I don't know what's happening. Like, I didn't plan for this to happen, but it was like God had deep down touched an area of my heart that had been dormant for many, many years. God knows about romance. Like, he can do all those things.
It was really neat for me to see that too, because that wasn't in response to something I had done. I knew hadn't done anything differently to make him feel that way towards me. And just the Lord confirming like what he had spoken earlier of, I can put that in Tim. As Tim looks to the Lord and trusts the Lord can work in him that way towards me. And as I look to the Lord and trust the Lord can work in me towards Tim. And it was really, really a sweet moment that we continue to look back on and trust the Lord with.
God's love involves God. And you can't take him out of the equation. I could try to give myself to Becky or try to work up something in my heart towards her, but the joy of the love of God is that actually I get to become a channel of his heart to her. But that doesn't happen unless I'm abiding and I'm receiving something from him. And so I don't know quite how it all works, but I do know that the Lord began to open up, oh my goodness, I need to offer myself to the Lord's love and desire for Becky. You actually become so blessed in that. It's actually a real honor and a privilege that God would share his heart for another person with you. You're tasting of something from the Lord. And so not only is it not a competition with God now, it actually becomes an enjoyable expression of, I'm being blessed by God's heart to you right now. And it's not competing with God. It's not like taking me away from him. It's actually causing me to know him more, and in a way that I never would know unless God had brought Becky into my life.